Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm pretending I'm a very serious scholarly person and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of septum piercings, ancient origins, traditional practices, and its rise to popularity in Western culture because shocker, the septum didn't just appear to some white NYC punk in the 70s in a vision. If you enjoy learning about piercings and other body mods, I'm going to leave my body modification playlist up here, and I would love it if you could leave me a like and maybe even subscribe to my channel so you never miss another video, and it also helps me out a whole lot. Let's get into it. First things first, what even is a septum piercing? A septum piercing is what I have right here. It's a nose piercing placed through the wall that separates the nostrils. Its proper placement is usually referred to as the sweet spot, which is kind of between the really hard, thick cartilage that actually separates your nose, which is called the septum, hence the name, and the squishy, thicker bit of skin at the bottom of your nose. I'm realizing now it's kind of hard to describe, but if you don't have a septum piercing, just kind of feel around like towards the tip and you'll feel what I mean. Obviously, you're going to feel what I mean as well when you have a septum piercing, but like you'll kind of know. You know, yeah. It is kind of rare, but there are people who don't have a sweet spot because the really thick hard cartilage of their nose goes further down than on other people. It is rare, like I said, but I've seen it. Yeah. Jewelry options for septum piercings are nearly endless. You can wear full rings, circular barbells, which are also called the horseshoes. You could wear curved barbells or banana bars, which are a really, really good option for healing, in my opinion, because you knock it on less things because it just doesn't hang out of your nose, and also a really good option for hiding it longer term because I just personally really don't like septum retainers. You could also wear tusks or clickers with really intricate designs or gemstones or whatever your little heart desires really. And stretching septum piercings has also become really popular in recent years and has kind of replaced lobe stretching with the youth. While septum piercings have gained so much popularity over the last decade or so, they even managed to break out of subculture circles and into the mainstream. They have been performed for centuries all over the world. And its roots, as with most body modification, lie in indigenous cultures worldwide. Many indigenous cultures, both modern and ancient, have long embraced body piercing as symbols of identity, spirituality, or to proclaim their warrior prowess. There were and are many different cultures that perform septum piercings as part of rituals or rites of passage, and I cannot possibly cover them all in this video. So this is just like a few I've picked to talk about and not the be all end all. Obviously, I just felt like I needed to say that. As much as I would love to make 3-hour-long video essays just yapping about piercings, unfortunately, that is just not in the cards at the moment. So this is just like a selection, if you will. Most prominently, the Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs performed tongue and septum piercings and probably some other piercings as well during religious rituals and ceremonies as a form of ritualistic bloodletting, which brought them closer to the gods. Septum piercings were also a sign of wealth and power in ancient Mesoamerican cultures. The jewelry was typically made of gold or jade, and in some cultures, the larger the jewelry was, the higher ranking, quote unquote, the person wearing it was in the society. For the Mayans and other cultures in the Yucatan, I hope I said that right. Different stones worn as septum jewelry represented different things like social status, as well as general nose piercing placement and jewelry shape representing things like which society the person came from. In other cultures, septum piercings were also used to make warriors look more fierce. Men in indigenous tribes of the Solomon Islands and in New Guinea wear tusks in their septum piercings made of actual tusks from male wild boars. The piercing itself was traditionally performed with the pointy end of a sweet potato plant or a bone, and it was usually performed as part of an initiation ritual into adulthood. That was really hard for me to say. In Central Australia, septum piercings were also used as a sign that a boy had transitioned into manhood. In the Arunta tribe, probably completely butchered that, boys would usually move from the women's and children's camp into the men's camp, usually between the ages of 11 to 13, and learn to hunt large animals. After some time, probably when they'd successfully hunted the first large animal, I really couldn't find any specifics on this online, although I'm sure it exists somewhere. Okay, I couldn't find it. If you know better, please correct me. The boy would get his septum pierced with a bone to mark the fact that he was now a man, and the piercing was usually done by their father or grandfather. Those septum piercings were also used as a way to flatten the man's noses to align with the specific beauty standard. While septum piercings are relatively new in the West, especially in the mainstream, they are the second most performed piercing worldwide. The first most popular, which probably isn't all that much of a surprise, are love piercings, in case you were wondering. Women of the West African Fulbe or Fulani wear golden septum rings as well as ear, neck and ankle jewelry to symbolize wealth. Like in Australia, in some African tribes, septum piercings are also a rite of passage for young men and women, which signify their transition into adulthood, and the piercing is often accompanied by elaborate celebrations and ceremonies. In Hindu culture, there is a specific type of septum jewelry called the nath, which is an integral part of bridal jewelry and adopted sometime in the 1500s. These pieces of jewelry honor the goddess Parvati, who is the goddess of love, motherhood, and beauty, and she also blesses the marriage. Similar to ancient Egyptian beliefs, in Hindu culture, septum piercings are also believed to help you connect with your spirituality, since the septum, like not the piercing, but the actual septum of your nose, is seen as your spiritual center. When you pierce your septum, you open up your connections with the spiritual world and your higher self, which is thought to help you communicate with the divine and heighten your spiritual awareness. They are also believed to provide spiritual protection from negative spirits and energy. Some Native American tribes wore and continue to wear septum piercings to symbolize social hierarchy. For example, Odawa or Shawnee leaders wore septum piercings to symbolize that they were the head of the tribe. Many indigenous tribes in North America also see the septum as a rite of passage after a successful return home from a soul-searching journey in the wilderness. The septum piercing was used to signify the success and show the rite of passage into manhood. Additionally, the piercings are thought to bring the wearer strength, courage, and protection, especially in battle. Which, side note, I always find these overlaps of belief so cool, especially with cultures that are so like geographically far apart. It's just the coolest thing to me. From a Western perspective, any and all body piercings, including the septum piercing, started gaining popularity in the 70s and 80s punk scene as a symbol of rebellion against the norm and a way to embrace individuality. In the early 2010s, septum piercings specifically became so popular they even managed to escape subculture circles and enter the mainstream, with A-list celebrities like Lady Gaga getting her septum pierced. Now that I think about it, it is actually so rare to see A-list celebrities, especially like actors, with piercings that aren't ear piercings, which, I mean, it makes sense for actors because they're just like, they're supposed to be blank canvases, but it's still like crazy. And now imagine that like 10 years ago. Insane. Absolutely insane. 2012 to 2015 definitely was like peak septum time, and I thank the gods every day that I wasn't a piercer then, because I hated doing septum piercings. They were everywhere. Everyone was getting one. I was getting one and I was like 14. Septum piercings obviously are still around and they are still very much popular. My personal theory as to why they're so popular, let me go off on a tiny tangent if I couldn't go off on my big one earlier, is that they are so popular because they are a facial piercing, but the piercing itself and the scar resulting from it, if you ever wanted to take it out and be a normie, are so easy to hide. I see the appeal in someone like maybe not wanting to look like a freak all the time. Anyway, so they are still popular, just not as popular as they were 10 years ago. As with most body piercing in Western culture, there's not really much meaning behind individual piercings, aside from the person who has the piercing liking the look. And the septum is really no different in this context. The only sort of loosely overarching meaning for specifically stretched septum piercings that I personally know of is that in BDSM culture, especially gay leather daddy culture, a stretched septum piercing means, how do I say this in a YouTube friendly way, that you are also into stretching other body parts or having them stretched. I think it could just be either or, right? I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. That's like the only thing or like meaning of a septum piercing I know of. There is the joke of septum piercings being like a way for bisexual women to flag that they're bi. Personally, I really hate that running joke, and it has also been like co-opted by red pill babies. So I hate it even more. I just felt the need to put it in because if I hadn't, someone in my comments would be going, actually, bi women. Shut up. And that concludes our brief piercing history lesson for today. I hope you learned something new and that this video wasn't entirely awful, because I had to read a lot from my notes. Let me know in the comments if you have septum piercing. Duh, I have one. It's my second one. Did you know? You probably knew, because there's like 3 people who watch my videos. Also, let me know if there's any other mods, piercings, specific things you would like to hear little tiny compact history lessons about. There's a few I have in mind, but I would obviously love to hear from you. A very, very special thank you to my channel members. If you would also like to become a rat baby, I'm going to put the link where you can join and receive all of these beautiful, gorgeous perks for as low as $1.99 a month. Right here. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to me yap about piercings, because it is the only thing that brings me joy in life. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!